You may know Jared Leto from when he started his career on a show called My So-Called Life, or when he was the head singer of 30 Seconds to Mars. But these days, people are not looking at him in the brightest light anymore. They're saying that he's an absolute creep and definitely tied to dark Hollywood. Today, we're taking a look at that story. As we get into it, I'm having my morning coffee. Please let me know what you guys are drinking, and thank you for subscribing to the channel. Now, let's dive in.
In 2017, the Me Too movement began, during which countless comedians, film producers, and actors were accused of various degrees of sexual misconduct. Since then, some of the subjects of this movement have had their careers completely flattened, while others have managed to make a comeback once people re-evaluated their allegations. But one man who seemingly escaped any of the conversation was Jared Leto, an actor and musician with a lengthy career and a long list of claims against him.
Now, before we get into the dirt of what he's done, let me know if you guys are a fan. I actually used to really enjoy his music in the band 30 Seconds to Mars, and I know that a lot of ladies liked him. He was this young heartthrob on My So-Called Life. So I'm curious, genuinely, if you guys were fans of him, if you are fans of him, and where you stand before you get into any details from the video.
Even other industry professionals have hinted at his supposed behavior. But even among a series of box office bombs, Jared's career seemingly shows no signs of slowing down. Long before he was a celebrity, Jared had a very unusual early life. Raised by a single mom who was part of the hippie movement and a father who was in the Air Force. This meant he moved around a lot growing up, and was encouraged to take part in the arts, including both acting and music. Like many actors, Jared began his career by moving to LA and landing minor roles for a couple of years until he got his big break. The 1994 TV show My So-Called Life, in which he played the love interest of the main protagonist. Naturally, due to the success of the show among teenage girls, Jared was quickly typecast as a male love interest. But he had something different in mind, as within just a few years of his big break, he appeared in movies like American Psycho as none other than Paul Allen from probably the most iconic scene in the entire movie. And you may also remember him from Fight Club, where he plays a character named Angel Face. In the movie, he's juxtaposed in the story to be good-looking, only for the protagonist to hideously deform him in a fight.
I actually did not realize that he was in Fight Club. That's funny.
Lastly, we have the movie Requiem for a Dream, a psychological drama where Jared plays a guy whose life is being destroyed by his heroin addiction. Based solely on the kind of roles he favored over the pretty boy image he started his career out with, you can gauge that he wasn't exactly satisfied in starring in random rom-coms and things of that sort. Another sign of his growing ambitions was that in 1998, he formed a rock band called 30 Seconds to Mars with his brother Shannon, which went on to become a household name as well. From the late 90s onwards, he had really set himself up for life with how much success he was accruing in multiple different mediums. I mean, how many A-list actors have you heard of that are also legitimate rock stars?
And 30 Seconds to Mars is actually a great band. Some of the songs are still hits and played today. It wasn't just a one-hit wonder band. They actually had some legit good music.
You would think that with his accomplishments, Jared could never fumble the bag. Well, think again. Let's fast forward to 20 years in the future, specifically the fateful year of 2016, when the sun was still yellow and the kiddos still had a twinkle in their eyes. We could not have possibly foreseen things like gooning and 6'7", okay? These were not in the common vernacular.
Although they stretch it out even more. 6, 7.
After 2 decades of cultural prominence, Jared landed himself a role as the Joker in the movie Suicide Squad.
Oh, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
If you don't get that bullshit out of my face, bitch.
As a quick aside, ever since Heath Ledger's Joker, everyone who plays Joker is pretty much doomed to underperform in comparison, which basically forces them to try to be as original and unique as possible in order to avoid being compared. In this movie, Jared apparently worked very closely with the production to create a new take on the Joker, and in the process, he managed to produce possibly the worst version of the character that has ever appeared in anything ever. And by the way, if you think that Jack Nicholson's Joker was worse, then you are officially not invited to Agartha. You could say that this was the beginning of the end for Jared Leto. First off, the character itself was unrecognizable, with things like the word damaged being tattooed on the Joker's forehead, and to top it all off, the performance itself was extremely cringy. But I guess you could write this off as a casualty of the entire movie being absolute dog shit, and his version of the Joker being sidelined and deliberately sabotaged by the studio behind behind the movie. Especially if you look at the interviews during the media tour the cast were doing to promote the movie, it seemed like everyone involved did actually have a good time, even if the end result was pretty bad.
I mean, you had some really good actors and actresses in this, and transparently, I never saw this movie, so I can't attest to how bad it was. But, I mean, Harley Quinn, you had some really big characters and actors. I'm surprised that it was so negatively looked upon. But I want to get into some of this dirt.
But as it turns out, even if this was true for most of the cast, it wasn't true for Jared, who was method acting for the role. Now, if you don't know what method acting is, it's when an actor will get so deep into preparing for a role that they act abnormally even when they're not on set. The idea behind the method being that they never break character until after the movie is done. This in and of itself is pretty controversial, and it's been widely criticized, even by other actors. The most recent actor for Batman, Robert Pattinson, once said, "You only ever see people do the method when they're playing an asshole. You never see someone being lovely to everyone while they're really deep in character." Unsurprisingly, Jared's method acting immediately led to unsavory backstage situations, the most notable of which being the gifts that he sent to the rest of the movie's cast, which consisted of a rat, a dead pig, a set of bullets, sticky Playboy magazines, used condoms, and anal beads. Now, the justification Jared gave for this bizarre behavior was that the Joker is somebody who doesn't really respect things like personal space or boundaries. That's not really the best excuse, but he later went on to say that the claims about the stuff he was gifting people were exaggerated by the media.
I mean, I just think that there were some things, that were mentioned about like gifts and the fact that I was giving used condoms to people, which was not true.
We can say that right now. That is
not true. It was not true.
I have to say, sending strange gifts, method acting, definitely weird, but I wouldn't say or go as far as to say it makes him a creep, right? Strange stuff, maybe a little bit off color, but we haven't seen anything yet that says, stay away from this guy, he's a problem.
And what are you going to do at that moment? You can't even, it doesn't matter how loud you shout or hold up a sign, with your pants off in Times Square. People are going to go with the story that they want to run.
And maybe this could be a compelling case of the media blowing things out of proportion, taking things out of context.
If you want to be part of this blood feast.
If it were not for the fact that the person who made the claims about used condoms was Jared Leto himself.
Don't forget the anal beads.
Who did you send anal beads to?
The used condoms.
You did not.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, it was.
Step back, friend. You can't just say use condoms.
That's interesting. So he actually said himself that they were used. And then he, in the later interview, stated that they weren't. So in one of these, he wasn't telling the truth.
And we're just going to, forget.
I know it's a family show, but we can,
Don't worry.
We can educate people here. At least they were used.
Who did you send used condoms to?
Oh, everybody.
And it was immediately agreed upon by multiple of his co-stars.
You can't just skip over that.
Yeah.
You get a used condom. What do you say? What do you think?
You say Jared has gone full Joker. Jared, he went full Joker, And the rule generally is never go full Joker.
Everybody knows you never go full.
I got so many weird things. I can't even begin to tell you the weird things I got.
Now, could this just be a premeditated stunt where the entire cast agreed to play it up? Maybe, but the problem isn't just the absurdity of doing this in the first place, but it's also that he did all of that for a movie that ended up being really bad. They even decided to shove Jared Leto's Joker into the extended cut of the Justice League movie, and it was still bad, except this time the screen was constantly blurry and desaturated, so it looks like he had just stuck his face in a bowl of shit. Then again, it's obviously not a literal crime to do a terrible job and act like a freak towards your coworkers. So the worst things you could say about Jared at this point in time were that he annoyed his co-stars and he was a bad actor.
Have you watched the Joaquin Joker trailer?
No.
No?
I haven't seen it.
And I'll tell you, all actors and actresses, don't every single one of them have one or two films that they played in that were just not the best? I would argue that most, even some of our greatest, Jared Leto is not one of the best actors, but he has played some really good roles, and I think he is a good actor. But if you take some of our greats, I think it's safe to say that everyone has played a role that they maybe either didn't do the best job in, the movie kind of tanked, or it was just kind of weird overall. So again, that alone is not enough to say that he's this, bad person. He just didn't do the best job with that role, or at least maybe he did a good job, but the audience didn't care for it.
As far as the kinds of things that celebrities get up to, being obnoxious isn't that bad, to be fair. It's also worth putting it into context that just a few years prior to the big Joker blunder, Jared actually had a really good performance in the movie Dallas Buyers Club, where he also engaged in method acting. So you could write Suicide Squad off as one big fluke. However, it's the unfortunate reality that celebrities get away with a lot of stuff because the media they work on is widely acclaimed. Because of this phenomenon, it was only after Jared made himself look like a hack in 2016 that public opinion really began shifting, as many considered that maybe he wasn't as great of a guy as people initially assumed. One of the first places this discourse manifested was on Reddit, where in a thread about Jared Leto's behind-the-scenes antics during the lead-up to the Suicide Squad movie, a sidetracked comment thread took place that read as follows. I have a cousin who goes to an expensive private high school in LA. One of her friends is the daughter of a certain famous model from the 80s and 90s and has been having sex with Jared Leto as a 13 and 14-year-old. He's made her get an app that deletes messages after they're seen. And he knows she's under 18 because one of her friends took a picture of a message he sent her before it was deleted that said, "Can you come over tonight?" And she said, "No, my parents are home." Feel free to call bullshit, but I have a feeling someone will find out soon enough, and he's going to be in deep shit.
All right, claims are claims, right? Is there any legitimacy behind this? This is just Pink Floyd is overrated, is just a random person on Reddit saying this. Very well could be true, but also very well could be false.
Edit. I've gotten more than one message from people who know which girl I'm talking about, so it sounds like more people are aware than I expected. This guy needs to go to jail. This was posted right around a month after the movie had come out, so nearly at its peak in popularity, or infamy. And since there's plenty of insane people online who will say this kind of thing about anybody who's a celebrity, this could just be a baseless allegation. To play devil's advocate here, this person is claiming that a friend of his cousin is being groomed by Leto on an app that erases metadata. And this commenter claims to know that Jared is grooming her because yet another friend of hers took a picture of a message where she mentions her parents to Jared. Even if that is true, you can still live with your parents after you're 18. And that's without mentioning that we don't have any direct proof of this being the case.
My source is that I made it the f*** up.
At first glance, this looks very far-fetched, and even the claim tacked on to the end of the comment where they say they've been getting personal messages from people who know who this girl is could simply be a lie. However, in the replies to this comment, you see people saying things like, "Kinda believe it, cause there's been rumors for years that he sleeps with underage fans of his band. Yep, he sleeps with underage girls at shows and is really infamous for his interest in BDSM and rough sex. There's rumors going around the internet that he sleeps with underage fans, so that doesn't surprise me. This includes allegations of rape."
Okay, so still so far, rumors. There are rumors. They hear this. Rumors can be made up with no founding information. It could all just be completely fake. And obviously having a band, being an actor, he's got a lot of fans and a lot of young fans as well. Doesn't mean that he's engaging in these things with him. And just because someone is a big into sex or into rough sex, again, it doesn't make them a bad person. If he's doing that with young people, then that's a different story. But they're just claims of rumors.
Friends told me she bumped into him back in 2006 to 2007 at Warped Tour, and he kept creeping on her. When she told him to back off, that she was only 15, he was like, "Age is just a number," so I believe it. What was the strangest thing of all of this is when somebody in the comments identified this supposed victim of Leto's as Kaya Gerber.
That's actually funny because when I was just reading that initial statement, I was thinking supermodel 80s, 90s, are we talking Cindy Crawford? And there it is.
Who is the daughter of the 80s celebrity Cindy Crawford. Kaya had just turned 15 in 2016, meaning that the timelines would match up. But then again, Kaya has never said anything about Jared Leto to this day, as far as I can tell. So even if this allegation is being echoed here on Reddit, it's not confirmed by any stretch of the imagination. It was just someone on Reddit saying something. However important the innocent until proven guilty thing may be, it's obvious that the proven part of the equation is the most important of all. The fire of suspicion against Jared from these online rumors was being stoked an entire year prior to the Harvey Weinstein and Me Too situation. So basically, it happened too early to receive any kind of serious attention. Despite this, it did prove easy for Redditors to start asking around to see if anyone had more information regarding Leto, which quickly led them to a Tumblr discussion from just a couple of months before, which in turn led to a thread on a groupie forum from 2013. I'm gonna be honest here, I had no idea that groupie forums were a thing, but this is exactly what it sounds like.
I didn't mean to have sex with him. I was just gonna jerk him off. That's
One user named Kuroki Mesa made a compilation of claims made about Jared, which include, I hooked up with him several years ago when I was about 4 months over 17. There were marks left. It hurt like Satan. He wouldn't slow down even when I told him to. There were times I had to bite down on him because of the pain down there, and he didn't give two pisses about it. I think he got pleasure out of hurting me, but I was too young and didn't know that then. I felt as though I was being raped. So girls, if you're into that whole thing, by all means, Jared's your man. I had sex with him when I was 15. He's gross. Stay away from him. I lost all respect for Jared Leto after I met too many teenage girls who have been approached by Jared in order to sleep with them. He's just another rock star who lets his ego get to his head so he can take advantage of young girls. He even hit on my 15-year-old best friend. He's no better than Roman Polanski in my eyes. I met Jared Leto when I was 17, a naive, innocent virgin on one of his movie sets in Brooklyn, when he was turning 33 or 34. He gave me his email address, we exchanged emails. He was friendly, we exchanged numbers, and that's when I started seeing he was a perv. I can say Jared was my first for many sexual experiences, and I wholeheartedly regret it nowadays. He was very pushy into coercing me to do sexual acts with him, and he was quite rough and forceful. Once he was unnecessarily rough, and when I told him it hurt, he didn't stop. The worst part of it is that he liked to talk dirty, but not have normal dirty talk. He liked the fact that even though I was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, he wanted me to tease him and tell him I was 14 or 15. He really got off on hearing I was X years old and he was doing something very dirty.
All right, so this directly reminds me of Epstein-related stuff, right? Again, let me say, these are alleged, and I'm not 100% set yet that I believe this stuff. These are just claims of girls and women saying that these things happened, saying that they were messages and emails, but we have yet to see any emails or any messages or screenshots of text messages. There's no actual true evidence that could upstand in court, which is probably why nothing has ever gone forward, either because no one's shared it or because it's all false. We don't yet know.
According to some people who were taking part in the Tumblr discussion about it, some of these posts, or all of them, were just fan fiction. However, when these forum posts were reported on 2 years later by a website called Contemptor, it spawned a Reddit thread where not one, but two people corroborated that they either knew one of the victims personally and had seen evidence of what Jared was sending them, or had heard similar stories about Jared role-playing these scenarios with women. But so far, these claims had only come from anonymous sources, and no one had been confident enough to talk about it with their name and their face attached to their claims.
Right.
Well, not exactly. You see, in 2015, just a little while before the Contemptor article was published, James Gunn apparently made a live stream on the now defunct platform Periscope, claiming that Jared slept with several underage girls. However, this stream was promptly deleted, and James made an Instagram post with this caption: "Sorry to all of you around the world who saw my ambient-fueled Periscope session last night at 3 a.m. Yes, I erased it." Even if this is 100% true, James still decided to delete the stream, which may mean he retracted his statements or regretted making them. However, he would reiterate these claims just a few years later. In 2018, actor Dylan Sprouse tweeted out the following: "Yo, at Jared Leto, now that you've slid into the DMs of every female model aged 18 to 25, what would you say your success rate is?"
I will also say here, 18 to 25 is not illegal.
James Gunn replied, "He starts at 18 on the internet?" I don't know how often James Gunn does Ambien, but I doubt that 3 years after he first made this claim about Jared, he once again randomly rattled off this narrative about him for no reason. Now, just 1 month prior to all of this going down on Twitter, Jared's co-star on My So-Called Life, Claire Danes, gave an interview to Howard Stern, where she said this:
"He brought me to my first club when I guess I was 14. I was, Is that appropriate?
No.
He was very fraternal with me. He was very protective of me.
How much older was he than you?
Much.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know. At the time, he seemed ancient. He
Like
was
you were 13, 14?
I was 14, he was 20.
He seemed ancient. She's calling 20-year-olds ancient right now. How does that make me feel? How does that make you feel?
One or something.
That is ancient to a 14-year-old. Yeah.
And he was your first makeout, which is really kind of weird.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
there
you're 14.
were these stage directions in that scene where it said Angela kisses Jordan's face. And I was like, what? I didn't understand. Like, what is that about? Like, why would she kiss his face? And it was, So I had that question on set, and he had to kind of
explain
teach me.
I'll teach you.
Okay, so this is strange, right? If she was 14 and he was 20, let's say, that's clearly underage. For them to have a relationship would be inappropriate. They did not have a relationship, mind you. But in the direction from the set, in the script, they had to have some type of a makeout session. How is that okay? If it's the job, if it's on the job, if it's written in the script for them to make out, how is that okay? I know that in the show, he wasn't supposed to be that much older than her, I don't believe, but still, it doesn't make that action okay just because it's written into a script and someone may be playing the role of a different age.
Though it is somewhat shocking to consider the possibility that Jared Leto may have been doing this kind of thing for his entire life, it's also worth noting that predators don't just become predators overnight. People online recall discussions about Jared's illegal activities going all the way back to 2005, and not just from random anonymous strangers, but also from news outlets like the New York Post. In one article they published in 2005, they talked to a source who claims that Jared was pursuing underage girls while on tour with his band. He's been approaching all the girls and inviting them to his shows. Girls from IMG, Elite, Next, and Women are staying there, and Jared has been hitting on all of them. And just for context here, IMG and Elite are modeling agencies. He's a serial texter. He is constantly texting these 16 and 17-year-old girls. It's really kind of creepy. Leto's digit collecting prowess came up short with 17-year-old Elite newcomer Nadia Panchenko last week at the Maritime's La Bottega restaurant. The Ukrainian stunner declined to give up her number because she already has a boyfriend, and the fact that a frowning chaperone was standing right behind her probably didn't help Leto's case.
Okay, again, another statement that he was a serial texter, which means he would want to text these girls regularly, excessively even. Yet we have yet to see one of those texts.
This article claims that Jared Leto, a celebrity whom everyone could recognize instantly, was doing cold approaches on minors, not only in public, but directly in front of their chaperones with not a care in the world. These many red flags call for a reevaluation of pretty much his whole career to look for signs that he had always been flying just under the radar. For one, he's publicly associated with photographer Terry Richardson, and continued to be well after he had already been accused of sexual impropriety with the underage girls he photographed. Jared went as far as to say this.
Talking about Terry Richardson, he says we have a feeling he has a common passion with you that we probably have too, but you can afford to enjoy that passion a little more.
I think we have a lot in common, Terry and I. He's a really interesting man.
Now, obviously, this clip is out of context, but it is something that the public was taking notice of at that time. Further examination of just what's always been publicly available is that a Russian model named Valerie Kaufman, whom Jared was publicly dating during the Suicide Squad era, was someone he had met when she was just 17 and he was 40. With all of this speculation going on online, you would expect some kind of acknowledgement or denial, but instead, Jared remained radio silent during the peak of this discussion. You may think this is just because Jared avoids engaging with online rumors, but you'd be wrong, because in 2015, he sent a cease and desist letter to Lipstick Alley, the same forum where alleged groupies shared their stories about Jared. But as far as I can tell, this never went to court, and the post remained on the site. Once the direct evidence ran dry, and those who were looking into this matter ran out of first-hand testimonies, people began looking for soft tells that Jared had made on himself throughout the years. Firstly, people found that Jared was just an all-around insufferable celebrity stereotype, such as in this video where he's singling out this random guy at his show for no apparent reason.
Hold on. Hey, buddy. Hey, yo, you with your fingers in your chin beard. What are you sitting on your fucking ass for? Huh? This is the 30 Seconds to Mars show, okay?
I like his guitar.
If you can stand up, you better be up off your fucking ass right now. You hear me? Does he understand what I'm saying to him right now? No, don't look behind you. I'm looking at you. Yes, you. Yes, you.
There were also some conversations about him just being a general nuisance to the owners of the venues he played at, causing tens of thousands of dollars in property damage and never paying them back. But quickly, people also found that Jared was not your run-of-the-mill prima donna, as he fashioned himself a bit of a cult leader. In the early 2010s, it was commonplace for fandoms of popular artists to nickname themselves and develop a culture. If you liked Justin Bieber, you were a belieber. If you liked Lady Gaga, you were a little monster, and so on and so forth. It's pretty cringy looking back on it now, but it's really just teenagers being teenagers. And the artists they were fans of didn't egg it on super hard, which is probably good on their part. Jared, however, took a very different approach, as he didn't just egg it on.
I will say he does look like someone that, if he wanted to, could start a cult. Just saying, he is the visual representation of what I envision as a cult leader.
Instead, he started it from scratch. All the way back in 2002, 30 Seconds to Mars released a song called Echelon, and when the fandom subculture phenomenon was getting big, in 2013, during the promotion of an upcoming album, Jared asked his fans to record themselves saying, "I am Echelon," right before getting a tattoo of some of their lyrics. This drew a lot of criticism for incentivizing cult-like behavior, and it didn't help that the band was also charging nearly 600 British pounds for fan meetups, which may seem like a harmless way to make money, but if you think about it, it opens a venue for rewarding obsessive stalker fans to realize their parasocial dreams of interacting with their idols. Overall, you can definitely call this behavior questionable, but probably not evil. With that being said, one of the most eccentric things about Jared would come to light in 2019 with the Camp Mars Island project, which in and of itself sounds like some kind of CIA experiment you would find at the bottom of a Wendigoon iceberg.
No, it makes me think of Epstein Island.
Legit, this guy was just walking along the side of the road and saw his friend's lifeless body on the ground and thought, man, I get a free car.
Mars Island was a music festival hosted by 30 Seconds to Mars in Croatia. But Music Festival does not really paint a full picture. It was basically a nature retreat on this island where all of Jared's fans could go to hang out with him, and hear him and the band perform live music multiple times. And Jared really quadrupled down on the whole cult angle, dressing in all white and with a big beard and long hair, having everyone meditating with him, and publicly joking about it, tweeting things like, "Yes, we are a cult." On one hand, some people basically saw this as an inside joke for fans of the band, and that's not untrue. But if you take into account all of the claims made against him, it started to look a lot worse to a lot of people. But as far as we know, there was no questionable behavior going on at Mars Island.
I mean, to be honest with you, if there are, and as I look at this, there are a lot of females in the audience here that went to this island. Everyone's dressed in white. Okay, I don't know if that was provided or if they were told to wear white. I think that the statement, "this is a cult," is just like him making a social media post kind of saying that this is this is a movement. This is something that we're doing. I don't think it was an evil thing. That being said, every single woman most likely in this audience right here, he could have done what he wanted to with, because they were that big of fans and would have loved the opportunity. Maybe not every single one, but many of them most likely. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing some type of an intimate island experience so that your super fans could get time to hang out with you, do spiritual type stuff, listen to your band. It's not hitting me as something that he's done that's like wrong.
I mean, arguably the whole thing is questionable, but you get what I'm saying. But despite all of this stuff accumulating as the public grew increasingly sour on Jared, eventually this stuff simply lost momentum before any hard-hitting allegations were made. Mainstream media never really picked up on these stories, and all of it went under the radar. But like I said, the way these things work is that a celebrity is only put under scrutiny when their work isn't going well. Just when the backlash for his Joker performance was winding down, in 2023, Jared decided to make a major comeback with the box office hit and cinema masterpiece known as Morbius.
It's Morbid time.
That right there was just kind of cheesy. It's Morbin time.
You might not remember how much of a mockery was made out of this movie flopping, with it leaving the theaters almost immediately due to not getting any viewership, only for people to make an ironic campaign to bring it back. Funnily enough, the studios actually re-released it in theaters, thinking that this meme would translate to ticket sales. Obviously, that did not happen, which prompted people to make yet another campaign saying they were just busy that weekend and they needed Morbius to be brought back a third time. With hundreds of thousands of people tweeting out "It's Morbin time," the movie's only significance is really how much of a joke it became. But one unintended consequence of all of this is that it once again attracted people's attention to Jared Leto, and they once again began discussing his allegations. Upon doing some research, they discovered that he had recently sued the owner of a website called Michael Casting Pearls. Based on the rough details given for the lawsuit, this Michael Casting Pearls guy believed that Jared Leto was the Antichrist, and he had been posting online about it. With the lawsuit being presented this way, most people would instantly dismiss anything coming from this person as it being purely the work of someone who is out of their mind. But the thing is, if you actually browse this guy's website, on one hand you will find bizarre religious conspiracy theories, but he also made an amateur video essay about Jared, where the allegations against him are discussed, and the creator analyzes Jared's history of connections to people like Terry Richardson. Luckily for people researching this case, Michael Casting Pearls also included a link to screenshots of various people making claims about Jared over the years. I was a fan of his and underage, and I had snapped him once and he sent me a dick pic, and I'm still so disgusted. I told a few people when it happened and everyone said, "Ooh, what kind of picture did you send him?" As if 15-year-old me sent provocative pictures. When I was in high school, Jared Leto used to walk through the meadow in Central Park trying to get noticed by teenage girls. Since the discussion of sexual abuse in the entertainment industry is important, I'd like to remind everyone that I witnessed Jared Leto invite an underage girl on his bus. He's a rapist and an abuser. At Jared Leto, do you remember being in Palmdale on a photo shoot with your friend, a photographer? She was on job for someone else when you exposed yourself to my daughter when she took you and another actor to shoot guns. Yeah, assault. Still haunts her you took it out, jerk. She wasn't underage. Still, a young woman of 18 or 19 doesn't need that at any age. I could go on reading more of these, and really, I could go on because there are literally hundreds of claims coming from every country Jared had ever set foot in, with most of them being related to Jared being with girls as young as 14, 13, and even 12, including various degrees of abuse or even giving them STDs. Of course, we can't personally verify the legitimacy of each and every one of these accusers, but with this many people coming out over the years, you have to wonder if there's an inkling of truth to what they're saying. Unfortunately, their veracity can only be evaluated if these accusers come forward in the proper legal manner.
And that's what my question is. If you have so many hundreds of people claiming that this stuff has been done to them, it seems like it would be very easy for them to come together and to try and put him in jail or sue him. The guy's a millionaire. Sue him for some of his money to try and deal with some of those damages. I don't know, but again, all claims still yet to see a screenshot of any messages, any pictures that were sent or anything like that.
Which, as of 2023, they hadn't done. But just 2 years later, Airmail published an article reporting on how these claims had recently gone from rumors to actual accusations.
Okay.
It starts out with more of the same we've already seen. Testimonies from people who claim they were approached by him when they were just 16, calling them multiple times over weeks to ask them questions. Oddly enough, here we have the mention that Leto actually had an assistant who was aware of what he was up to and actively cooperated in finding him new victims, which is extremely disturbing to consider.
That is literally the Epstein-Ghislaine Maxwell method. You have Epstein that was abusing the young girls, you had Ghislaine Maxwell who was going and recruiting the young girls. Literally the same thing is being said right here. Whether it's true or not, we don't know.
But as we go deeper into this article, we finally get one named accuser, music producer Ali Teals, who alleged that all the way back in 2012, Jared had attempted to force himself onto her backstage while wearing a kilt and a snow hat. With the resurgence of the discussion surrounding him, she decided to tell her story, which prompted 50 other women to also come forward, although these claims don't have names attached to them, and they're simply people on Instagram who saw what she said and decided to echo her claims.
Right.
This This, in turn, forced Jared's legal representation to respond, claiming the allegations are false. Another accuser, a model named Laura LaRue, claimed Jared had exposed himself to her without warning or consent when she was just 17. All in all, while each of their specific stories haven't been told in detail by journalists, there were a total of 9 women who were formally accusing Leto of sexual impropriety. Besides Laura and Allie, another person alleged that Jared had started texting her while she was underage, with him asking her some very foul and inappropriate questions. Additionally, she claims that at one point Jared just began cranking it in front of her, insisting that she join in. In other stories, Jared specifically went to modeling agencies to try to siphon all of their underage female models into parties that he organized so that he could get them to skinny dip in his pool. With all of this going nuclear in legitimate news outlets, a lot of people expected him to suffer some legitimate professional consequences. And that's fair, given that entire careers have been reduced to rubble over much less. But it turns out that, as the prophecies have foretold, nothing ever happens. Despite all of these allegations making the rounds in June, a major movie that was set to be a blockbuster, Tron Ares, had just been released, starring Jared Leto front and center. Now, it is worth noting that to say Hollywood gave him this role is not exactly true. Jared had been lobbying for this movie to get made way back in 2017, claiming to be a huge fan of the Tron franchise. And despite the failure of Suicide Squad happening in 2016, Jared had won an Oscar just 3 years prior for Dallas Buyers Club, meaning that at that time, the industry did have reason to believe that his career had some serious potential. Fast forward 8 years and a lot has changed.
By erasing my mind.
Despite boasting a pretty impressive cast, a soundtrack by 9 Inch Nails, and a huge marketing campaign which involved Mr. Beast for some reason,
Let's do this.
Tron Ares was a major box office failure, although Jared may not be too concerned about it since he's already slated to appear as Skeletor in the upcoming He-Man Masters of the Universe movie.
Which I was just scrolling through Netflix last night trying to find a show to watch, and I saw Masters of the Universe on Netflix. It turns out it flopped terribly in the movie theater, and that's something that I was really excited to go watch with my kids, which I never got to go watch with my kids. But yeah, I didn't realize he was Skeletor.
Which, in all likelihood, will also be a failure. And the failure of Tron Ares also once again brought Jared's performances as an actor under scrutiny, once again bringing the allegations against him into the spotlight. As far as public statements from Jared himself, it's been complete radio silence. His legal representative only responds directly to these news outlets, and it's only to say that the claims have no merit and nothing beyond that. Now, in fairness, I guess it is possible that somehow all of these claims are completely untrue. We've certainly seen false allegations before. But what's different about this case is the overwhelming number of claims being made. It's literally hundreds at this point. If even one of these stories is true, it's pretty damning. It's hard to say how long Jared Leto's plot armor will last, especially if more people come forward to corroborate these stories. With other major figures of the entertainment industry finally being punished for their decades of criminal conduct, I wouldn't say it's impossible for Jared to also meet the same fate. But if you want my opinion, it's going to take someone very high profile coming forward to accuse Jared before anything definitive happens. As of now, his name is just much bigger than anyone who has said anything about him, and as a result, positive news or articles about his career in general are just going to rise to the top of that noise. But if it does happen, the next people who are going to have fingers pointed at them are going to be the countless industry professionals who have allowed his career to persist.
And I agree right there. We've had hundreds of accusations come through, but no evidence from any of those people. As mentioned, it does only take one true interaction with a minor to get himself in a lot of trouble and to completely taint his name, put him behind bars, and get sued. So as of right now, there's just accusations. Nothing has been proven. Very curious on what your thoughts are. Do you think a lot of people making noise is enough to say that Jared Leto actually did those things? For me right now, I'm not yet convinced, but that's only because I haven't seen hard evidence. If you want to dive deeper into other celebrities and some drama that goes into Hollywood, check out this video. I'll see you guys over there.